All right, this video is a preview of what we're going to be talking about in class this week, which is switches and how they connect with other elements such as buttons and labels. All your material is going to be there in Blackboard along with a lab write-up. So if you have any questions or if you want to do a pre-read, come to class with your questions. We'll see you then. One of the activities we're going to be working on this week is learning how to use switches and connect them to other design elements such as labels and buttons. So the write-up is in Blackboard, and let's go and take a look at how this is going to work. So let's create a new project here. And let's open up our storyboard. And let's start setting it up. So let's start by dropping a couple of switches, and I know we haven't formally talked about what they are, but let's see them first and talk about them second. And I'm going to use the technique of copying and pasting. So let's do a Control C and Control V. Whoops, make that Command C and Command V. My Windows is showing. Now the basis of this app, as you can see from your lab write-up, is we're doing something with a phone. So we want to be able to turn our cell data and our phone option on or off, as well as have a couple of buttons which are different from switches and a couple of labels to display results. All right, so let's drop our labels there. So we're going to go to Object Library and Label. And once again, we'll copy and paste. So Command C, Command V. And let's give it a name. So we'll say data. And we'll say phone. Now we also want to put some buttons here. So let's get a button. And once again, Command C and Command V. And we'll call that turn airport mode on. And turn airport mode off. So those are switches. Now let's put some display labels down here. So we'll grab a label. And this will just be a decorator. We won't hook any code up to this, so we'll say it's service status. And then we'll put some labels that we're going to be changing the text field value of. So once again, Command copy and paste it twice. And we'll say cell phone status as a default, or phone function status, and data status. Now let's go here and click on the rings to open our assistant editor. And you know what to do. Now, very important, we're going to start to construct more complex apps. So if you're not disciplined about how you organize your code and your data variables, you're going to get lost in a hall of mirrors. So put some commas, comments. We'll say IBOs. And an interesting thing is about to happen, and we'll talk about this in the lab as well. But the use case for this, as you can see from your lab write-up, is we want to be able to click, turn airport mode on, and we want both these switches to then be turned off because we're in airport mode. And we also want to show our labels, update them as cell phone off, data off. Now we've seen two types of IB interface builder outlets. There's action and there's outlet. And actions give us a function so we can conduct a operation, we can do something. And outlets give us a value so we can grab the button and manipulate it from outside. So here you're going to have an interesting problem, and I'm going to tell you the problem and leave you to percolate on it for a few minutes before I give you the solution. But up here, so let's grab our data switch. So we'll control drag down. And we'll call that data IBO outlet. And we'll make that outlet. Now this is very important. In this case, it's defaulting to UI switch, which is the type, but sometimes it's going to default to something called any. You have to be careful about that, because if you're making a action or an outlet and you leave it as any, your code won't work. So I'll call your attention to that again in a few minutes. All right, so you see here we have a variable. That means that if I put some code in this button, I can reach into this variable and turn it off. I can say data IB outlet is on. I can say that's equal to false. It'll turn it off. But I also want to be able to click on this button and manipulate other things, such as turning these status indicators on or off. Have you seen yet what we're going to do? Well, let's find out. So you see here, I'm making another interface builder for the same thing, but this time I'm going to call it action. And you see there, my value is any. That's not good. I need to change that to a UI switch, and I need to be very careful with my variable names here, because if I get messed up, all is lost. So we'll call it data IBO action. So do you see what I've done? I'm making two IBOs for the same widget. One is a outlet, one is an action, and there's nobody stopping me from doing that, and I in fact do have to do it in this case, as you'll see when we get to the final solution. So we'll connect that up. So that's good. All right, so now we have to go and hook up our switches, so let's do that. So turn airport mode on, control drag. So we'll say turn AP mode on, and this time we're going to make it an action. So it's an action, but look here, it's any. Not good. Make it UI button. So you see up here, we had to make two outlets. Actually, I have to go and make another two for phone as well, but let's just look at data right now, because I need to read the data, but I also need to control from that switch. In the case of the button, I'm just sending out a control signal in the function. I'm not going back and trying to change the status of the button from outside. All right, so before I forget, let's go back here, and for our phone, we'll make first an outlet and then an action. So here, good naming convention, I'll try and stick the same. I'll say phone IB outlet. And I guess that should be okay, except, well, yeah, I'll make that my outlet since it's first. So we'll say outlet, and you see before it was any, but now it jumped to UI switch. So now that's good. So we'll say connect. And finally, what have we missed so far? So we've got an outlet and an action for data. We've got an outlet for phone, and now we need an action for phone. So see what I'm saying? And if you're new to this, you may even want to spec this out in an Excel sheet or something at the beginning to make a checklist to make sure you don't forget anything. So there, we're going to drag that down. And now we said we need an action, right? Because that's outlet. So this is action. You see that's any. So that's not good. So we'll make that a switch and give it a name. So we'll call it phone. What did I call the other one? IBO action. IBO action. So if I've been consistent, because if I make a mistake, remember, I can't just erase it here. I have to go back to my connection builder and erase the connection as well. So there we say connect, and we double check it one more time. Measure twice, cut once, as the carpenters say. So here we have data, data, outlet, action, phone, outlet, phone, action. So far I think we're good. And again, why did we have to double this up? Remember that? Because here we need a var, so we can access that switch from outside, from the buttons, and change it. And we also want, when we click on this, it's going to make something happen. So then we need to be able to take action. So we need the function. So remember that trick, because a lot of people new to this, they kind of get messed around on that. They think it's a contradiction of something. Like, how can I have one thing which is both going to give me a variable and an action method? And the answer is you cannot. But nobody told you you cannot have multiple IBOs for one widget. So that's what we're doing. All right, that's good. Now let's go and make another button here. So we have turn airport mode on. Now we'll grab turn airport mode off. So you know what to do. So control and drag. It's good. Do we want it to be an action? Yes. Do we want it to be any? No, we don't want that. But we do want to be very consistent with our naming convention. So we'll say turn AP mode off in this case. Is that all good? Because I don't want to go into the connection manager and clean it up. That wastes time. I got stuff to do. So we'll say connect. Yay, very good. So far so good. And what do we need to do next? Well, service status is just a decorator, right? That's just there to advertise some information. So let's go to our attributes monitor, dress it up a little bit. And later on, I'll show you how you can actually change colors and things like that programmatically. Sometimes that's good to call attention to stuff. So for right now, we'll just do that. And now we do need to change cell phone status. So it'll default to saying cell phone status, but the first time somebody clicks this button up here to turn it off, that's going to say phone is off. And then data, right? So it's going to say data is off. So you guys will see that in a couple seconds. Also, I'll post a link to my GitHub where you can go and look it over there in computational knowledge. But remember, copying and pasting code does not really do you any favor. What works for me is to actually print it out on a piece of paper, study it, percolate over it, and then retype it, and do it with mindful understanding. All right, I guess we're almost there. So let's grab our cell phone status so you know what to do. Control drag. Good. Is it an outlet? Yes, it's a label. It's an outlet. So sometimes in some languages, you can actually click on a label and get stuff to happen. But for right now, let's keep it simple. So we're leaving that as outlet. And the type there is UI label, so it's not giving us any. So that's good. And now here we will say cell phone status. Oops, status. Label. That's all good. Now finally, we're going to go and do data status. So you know what to do there. Once again, it's outlet, proper type, and we will say data status label. And if I'm going too fast at any of this point, you guys realize it's a video, you can pause it. A lot of video players like VLC, you can set it to go forward at 25%. So do that if you need to do that. And I guess that's shaping up okay. Just dress those up a little bit, because why not? So now we need to go and start coding these up. So it's always a good idea to run your program at the beginning. Make sure you're not going to get any compile errors, although we haven't done anything complicated yet, but still a good idea. So Control Command F up there on the title bar will take my Xcode out of being modular, so I can see over here what's going on. Interesting, the Viking coder. I don't know where that's coming from because, well, actually that was a previous app that I was running. I hadn't put that one in this one yet. So here's my current app, and that looks pretty good. So you guys know what switches are. So they have the property of being is on or is off, which we're going to go and adjust now. So here's what we want. When I click turn airport mode on, both of those should flip to off, right? Because data and phone need to be off. And then these two labels should both indicate cell phone status off, data status off. And then I can toggle these and they could come back on, or I could click turn airport mode off, and then both of those should pop back on. So that's where we're going. All right, let's get back to it now. We need to start setting up our code. So let's clear up our screen a little bit. And what we want to do in this case is well, let's start doing it one at a time. So first of all, let's just do it so when we set airport mode to on, both these switches here should go off. So let's get that IBO. So there's turn airport mode on, and there's our function. So now we need to get a handle on our data switch outlet. And remember, we have two outlets for that now. We have an action outlet for when we click on it, but now we're acting on it from another place. So let's type the name of the outlet. So we're going to say data IB outlet. And that's a variable. So this has a property called isOn because it's a switch and they have that. And if we're turning airport mode on, what do we want to do? Set it to false. Well, let's test that one little bit of functionality now. When we hit our turn airport mode on button, we expect this switch to get turned to off. So let's see if that happens. See, it's working, so that's good. All right, let's turn off our simulator and wire up the rest of it. So there's turn airport mode off. So in this case, it's going to be is on. Well, you got to keep track of the logic of this now. I have to talk through it myself. So if I'm turning airport mode off, I probably want that to go on, which means is on now becomes true. Now let's go and do the same for our phone actions. So once again, keeping track of what we're doing, if we're turning airport mode on, we want the phone to go off, right? So here we're going to say phone, IBO outlet. What's the property? Is on. And what's the status here? Well, you can see it above. Yay, good for us. We're doing it. And similarly here, turn airport mode off. See, the good thing about working with naming conventions is it keeps it simpler for you. So phone, IBO, outlet. See, we're calling the variable up there, and we're saying that it's true. All right, let's test all of that. Oops, use of unresolved identifier. What did I do? Did you mean phone, IBO, outlet? I suppose I did mean that. Yep. All right, let's see it from the color coding now. We can see we're right. All right, let's give it another spin. And now we turn airport mode on. See, both our buttons went off. And now if we turn airport mode off, we see them both turning on. All right, that's good. Now let's work on updating our status labels. So here in our function code for turn airport mode on, we're going to grab the status labels. Actually, did I set those up yet? I don't think I did. Did I set up my labels? See, because I kept it all up there. I did not yet set them up, so let's do that. So we'll grab this one, control drag. And is that going to be an outlet or an action? Well, it's just a display, so it'll be an outlet. It is correctly showing UI label. And let's call it cell phone status label. And similarly for the next one, data status, control drag. And again, it's an outlet, it's a label. And we'll call it data status label. And everything looks good. And now if we're turning stuff on, we want these to display that the cell phone status is off and the data status is off. So how do we access a label? That's right, with the text field, and just display some message. So here we can say cell phone status is off. And similarly with the next one, And I might be going a bit slow for you, so feel free to skip ahead in the video as well. When you're talking through this, it takes more mental processing. So here we're going to get our cell phone status label. Excuse me. Our data status label. So we'll grab that. And we'll say .text. And we'll display some message. So data status is off. Oops. And that should all be working okay, I suppose. We'll test it in a minute. Well, actually, I guess we can test it now, because the next thing we need to do is to go and take advantage of the action functions of our switches. So let's hit the test run and Control Command F to make the window smaller, and let's see what it looks like. So always know what you're expecting here when I turn airport mode on. See, it's airport mode, so these have gone to off and these have gone to off. Oh, but look, now I'm clicking this. I would like this to go to on, so that's the next thing we need to do. So we'll suspend our simulator. And how are we going to do this? Well, you guys already know how to work with buttons. So we'll find our button IBO, which I don't think I put that there yet, did I? I should have actually called these switches to keep myself straightened out, and I encourage you to do that. Put switch in the name here. Here we have label. I have not yet dragged in my button, so let's do that. So Control drag. And you know what to do now is a button in action. Yep, because it needs to take action. See here, any, not good. So make sure you type that as UI button. And here, let's give it a good name. We'll call it button. Turn airport mode on. And similarly here, we're going to say button turn airport mode off. Any, that's not good, that's poison, that's going to wreck your program. So fix up the type to UI button, and everything else is good. So far we're fine. Now here we can do that, right? So when we turn our button on, see, so I'm working here. I want that to go off, and I want that to go off, and I want my labels to update. Now look here. Remember we said at the beginning that if all we had was a action outlet, we would now be finished, right? Because we could not go ahead and update the status through an action. But we were smart. We outthought the system, and we realized that we're going to also create a variable. So because I didn't give it a good name, I didn't put switch in the name, which I should have done. But if I hover over that, you see over here, it lights up, and if I hover that, it highlights over here what I'm supposed to be doing. Or it highlights over here which connection that corresponds to. So let's go and find our data button. There it is. That's an action outlet. Excuse me, haha. That's an outlet. There's no such thing as an action outlet. Get with it, Peter. So here's our data action. So let's go into that action function. And we're going to say actually, no, sorry, erase that. So we want to go here to this button. There it is. And here we're going to get a handle on our switch. And first we're going to get a handle on the data switch, which is what? Well, it's right there. That's the outlet. That's the variable name. So let's say data IB outlet. And now we want to turn it off. It may already be off, I guess. Later we'll put in logic to check that. But we'll say is on equals false. Because when we turn on airport mode, and what else do we want to turn off when airport mode is on? Well, the cell phone. So we're going to say data, phone. Is on, which should not be the case if it's in airport mode. I don't know why it's saying that. Hang on. So phone, IB outlet. Oh, maybe it was an uppercase. I think it might have been a case thing. So we'll say that's a false. And now when we hit the turn airport mode on button, data and phone switches should now go to off. Similarly, when I turn it off, copy and paste. And we want them to be on in that case, right? Whoops. True. It's true that it's on. All right, good. Well, let's test what we've done so far. So let's spin up our simulator. And let's test all we've done. So I can manually turn data on and off. And if I click on turn airport mode off, I would expect those to go on, right? Yay, it worked. Now if I turn airport mode on, expect both of those to go off. And let's see what's happening with our labels. So here, data status should be on. So let's go and look at our switch and find out how we access the label. That's something we haven't done yet. So there's the action for data. And let's go in here and try doing it this way. So we'll say cell phone. Actually, it's data, isn't it? I said data. So we'll say data status label. See how good it is to have a good naming convention. Data status label. And what's the property we want for a label? And now we're turning our action button on, so we can say data enabled. And similarly, let's go to our phone. So there's the action outlet for our phone. See, function tells us it's the outlet. Hovering over that connection, I get the highlighter over there on my storyboard. And I want to update my label in this case, so I can say cell phone status label dot text cell phone status on. I don't know, whatever message you want to type there is good. And have we forgotten anything? I don't think we've done anything with turn airport mode off yet. Well, let's go and test what we've done so far, then we'll do that. So turn airport mode off. I guess I haven't wired that up yet. Turn it on. See, my switches go off and my status goes off. If I turn data on, data is enabled down there and phone is enabled. So I suppose we've done most of it except for this button right here. So let's go and turn. In fact, if you want, here's what I would do for you guys. Pause the video and set up the turn airport mode button on. Set up that by yourself and come back and resume the video. And again, the code is in my GitHub, but you should be able to follow the existing code to get the rest of it going. All right, turn airport mode off. See, there it is right there. I've already done some stuff there, haven't I? So I've turned my switches off. I've not updated my label. Okay, well, we know what to do there. So if airport mode is on, then cell phone status is off. And data status is off, I hope. Wouldn't be good if it's in airport mode and it's not. Data status label dot text equals data is off. Have we now finished wiring this up completely? I think so, so let's test it. I can't think of anything I missed, but I could be mistaken, I guess. So spin up the simulator. So turning airport mode on, both of those indicate off, both of those indicate off. Turn on data, data is enabled. Turn on cell phone status. I guess I made that too big, I'll go back and fix that. But hopefully that's getting updated okay. I'll just say cell phone enabled. Cell phone enabled. I'll just say on, how about that? And let's recycle our simulator to make sure that change kicked into effect. So data off, data's enabled. That's not good, so I need to fix that. Phone. Oh, I got some reversal going on there. Yeah, so I have not properly configured my switches for the case of the label. So let's try something else here. I'll turn airport mode on. And everything goes off, so that button's working fine. Turn airport mode off. And my switches go on, but my labels are not updating. All right, I've got a couple of things I need to fix up. So I'm going to pause the video and do that, and then I'll resume once I've done it. And you guys please also pause the video and do that work by yourself too. Made a couple of updates I'm going to go over with you. First of all, let's run it and see what it runs like. So we turn data off and data off label updates. We turn phone off label updates. We put it in airport mode is off. Everything goes back on. Airport mode is on. Everything goes off. Now you may have found a little trap that I left for you in the previous code, which was as follows. Every time you click this switch, data would go to being enabled, or phone would go to being enabled. And I did that because I wanted you to think if there was a way, based on what we talked about, you could see your way around that. So let's talk about that for a minute. So you see here, every time I click the data button, I don't want to say data's enabled. I want to say if the outlet is on, then data's enabled, else data enabled, the text is off. So you see here, remember what we discussed, that we have a variable which tells us what's going on with the outlet, and we also have an action. So here in the action, we're querying the variable, and depending on the status of the button, we're updating the label, and similarly for phone. So anyway, here I've shown you the repo. I think I did. I'll show it to you again. There it is, Swiftly Peter, switches and buttons. And that's what we're going to be talking about tomorrow in class. If you would like to look at it ahead a little bit, you're welcome to do so, or else we'll see you in class tomorrow, which is March the 2nd. Bye.